Hello and welcome. I'm Eleanor Slumba, Marketing and Community Outreach for IC Agile, and this is one of a series of webinars on various tracks in the IC Agile roadmap, and today we're focusing on Agile in the U.S. federal government space, which can include all of the tracks in the learning roadmap. And we have members of the IC Agile community who are very active in this space. David Patton is Director of Federal Practice at CCPage, one of our newer member organizations, which is great. And Joshua Seckel is engaged in nothing less than changing immigration reform at USCIS. And others on the call will have a chance to ask questions and talk about their experiences, but I will allow David to talk a little bit about CCPage and...
Sure. So CCPage Systems, we've been in business about 30 years. 15 years now we've been doing Agile. Started with the foundations of XP practices and then added Scrum. They do Kanban, it's SAFe now. We're doing work in the federal sector at Department of Justice, Department of Commerce, GSA, and several other agencies. And we've been working with the federal government about 4 years now.
Covers a lot of ground. And Josh, introductions?
So, sure. So I've been working at Citizenship and Immigration Services for about 1.5 years. Before that, I was an Agile coach. Actually did about 9 months as a contractor first with CIS and have been working in Agile for a while. Within CIS, I guess it was just as I was coming on that we actually issued policy requiring not that you be Agile, but that you implement 8 practices. Now all of our applications have implemented that policy, and so every application at USCIS delivers at least quarterly to production. We're actually now beginning moves towards a DevOps type environments. We're on our first 2 experiments with allowing teams to promote code to production without going through a formal release readiness review process, and to do it as often as they'd like. So we're really trying to move our CIO, Mark Schwartz. His benchmark is not other federal programs, but his benchmark is Amazon and Netflix and other commercial vendors that are doing it right. So we have a lot of push to get to a better environment here.
Great. So in terms of our first question, what do you notice about the culture of government and how it's changing? It sounds like you're saying that government's not comparing itself to other organizations in the government sector, but really comparing itself to organizations outside the sector now.
I won't say that government isn't, but I will say that we aren't. I think there's still a lot of government comparing itself to other government organizations, but you know, as you try and push out, then, well, who else do you compare yourself to other than the commercial sector? And I think that's the right attitude to have. Is it isn't about, oh well, we're in government so we can't be as good as everyone else. It's about, we're in government, why can't we do it just as well, if not better than everyone else?
Mm-hmm. David, other observations?
Yeah, I agree with Josh there. Even within his agency, the different components are at different stages with Agile and who they compare themselves to. There may even be people in there comparing themselves to Citizenship and Immigration Services. But you know, the government also, I think, has become much more customer focused. In a sense, they're much more focused on getting the right product out the door to their users and the public, and I think that's really making them look at Agile in a large way. Another thing that's, I think, is driving it is you know, kind of the too big to fail approach, where before they had very large projects. Sorry, my light just went off. They had very large projects, and you didn't see the result for 3 years, and at that point it was failed and never used any of the output. And so with the drive toward modularized development and then to Agile is really, it's been a key driver to go Agile.
Makes sense. Any questions from anyone in the call on that topic, the topic of culture, before we go on?
This is Bill. I've actually been to some conferences for federal groups and consortiums, and I was amazed. I mean, the impression is, well, the feds wouldn't do it as well. I was amazed at the energy and the proficiency of what they're doing. So I like the benchmark of setting a high standard for the federal government, because from the pieces I've seen, it's like, well, yeah, putting me to shame. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, and this is Josh. I would like to add one other piece of it that isn't necessarily CIS, although we are working with them. The group at 18F, which is the Digital Innovation Group, actually has Google employees who are on leave from Google, and it has others from Silicon Valley and startups, and there's been a deliberate intent to hire those people even for a couple of years to come in and to help us really advance quickly, as opposed to we're going to try and learn it all and so, but bringing them in as actual employees rather than just as contractors as well.
So what factors do you think are driving demand for Agile in the federal marketplace? And this goes to the panelists first.
I'll start. This is David. I think a lot of organizations within the government are looking for quicker delivery, getting features out to the end users in the field faster. If you look at like a law enforcement agency, you know, the people that they're trying to prevent from violating the law, they're moving very fast. They're not waiting for a long procurement and development delivery cycle. So, you know, those agencies are looking now to put new features and functionality out to the field faster than ever before. And the second thing I think is, you know, Agile is all about not just the way you deliver, it's also about delivering the right thing to your end user. And I think there's no better methodology or you know, set of methodologies out there that do that better than Agile with quick feedback loops, you know, short cycles, making sure you're delivering the right thing for the end user.
So when external conditions create a lot of pressure, that sets a context for officials, decision makers to look around and say, what has a reputation for being able to respond to this kind of pressure? And the answer more frequently is Agile frameworks. Sounds like you're, just to paraphrase. Josh, would you like to chime in?
Efficient way of processing this. We have great systems for tracking the paper at the moment, but we need to move beyond that. So, and we are, and we're making great strides towards doing that. But that's part of, I think, what's driving this demand for change is, okay, I woke up this morning and checked my iPhone or my Android, and then I went into work and didn't have anything that was even remotely close to that from the federal government that I could touch, and so I think that's a lot of what's driving.
That makes a lot of sense. Any questions from participants on this topic of factors before we move on? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask if anything you're curious about on that topic.
You know, I just want to add one more thing.
Sure.
You know, there's the concept that has been seen not just with the federal government, but lots of other governments moving toward more digital services and connecting more with the public. And I think that goes hand in hand a lot with delivering the value and through Agile methods that Josh spoke about. So the pressure has come internally from the government wanting to do better, but also I think externally there's a lot of people saying, well, other entities like the federal government are doing this in an Agile fashion, so what and are successful. So why shouldn't we try it at the federal level?
Makes sense. So what do you think hiring officers need to know about people with Agile qualifications or Agile practitioners as a group or in subsets? Yeah.
I'll let Josh go on.
You'll let me go first on this one? Oh, great,
Yeah.
Thanks. So it depends on who you mean. So my first comment would be a bunch of certifications is worth the paper they're printed on. And I know we're at the IC Agile thing, and but you need to actually look for the experience or something that actually shows that you have experience. And because simply having been to a class doesn't mean that you can execute. But I'd also look for, so in my opinion, one of the things that I would definitively look for, and whether I'm hiring as a Fed or as a contractor, would definitively look for is adaptability to change. If you've done the same thing and you've done it really well, and I don't see anything that indicates that you have the ability to adapt to changes, I'm going to worry, even if that's the one thing that I'm looking for today, because Agile is about change and doing it the best way possible, not necessarily just about, well, we have a process and we're going to leave it exactly like this the whole time. So it's that adaptability to change and the willingness to learn new things and to continue to evolve that I think is actually vital in hiring Agile professionals.
David, care to jump in now?
Yeah, so I think those are very valid points, and I agree with them. I think if you're hiring on the government side, a lot of times you have to think about what the government role is. Josh has got this all nailed down, but other agencies are very new to this, and so I think they're in roles where they're managing the value, if you will say, and I think looking at the IC Agile's value management track is very valid. The project management stuff that's there, that track is also, I think, would be a good certification to be looking for. But I agree with Josh. I mean, when we hire someone, for an Agile type role, before I look deeply at their skills, I look for their attitude, because that's very crucial to any type of Agile work. I ask them, how do they learn, and find out, are they the type of person that does learn on their own, self-learning, because you need to be willing to change and improve yourself and improve your process and the work you do. So I look also for collaborative people who don't necessarily want to work by themselves with their headphones on, head down, not interacting with anybody. I think that those people excel in an Agile environment. So a couple of those traits that I look for, and then as Josh says, experience is always, real experience on Agile projects is very valuable.
So if someone has a IC Agile certified expert, that they have not only learned what they know, but really demonstrated it in front of a panel of other experts. So people have that assurance. As you know firsthand and wrote about on the Federal Agile blog, Josh, your own experience.
No, I absolutely agree. But it is not all certifications are created equal, as it were.
Right.
Teacher, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things I was doing today is trying to lay out for my organization kind of an education catalog, and which classes do I recommend for which roles and which levels. So we have, associate and professional and expert and senior and all that, these different ranks. And within that, you also have, business analyst, project manager, developer tester, and all that. So I was trying to figure out, for some people, I would like to have this, you got to have some baselines. There's some that I really almost require. You got to have this class. And for some of them, I just recommend. So I'm interested if you have any thoughts on that. And then also, the big one is what I do for the leaders, like the management team, because I think they need some stuff. So I'm looking at some of the adaptive management materials to teach them. Because if I just teach the rank and file, then they can't communicate well with the first and second line managers, management team. So how do you lay out kind of a catalog or program, and then how do you get the management into that picture too? Thanks.
Well, thanks. It's great that you're thinking that way, and I just want to acknowledge that interview question. How do you learn? Is one I'm certainly gonna file away. And if you're asking managers in an enterprise that same question, then you might be looking at the learning objectives in the adaptive management track on the roadmap. There's the leadership track as well, and how do you apply these agile practices to not just a specific role, but different disciplines and functions within the enterprise, so that everybody's kind of coming out of an agile mindset. And like you said, Josh, it might not be agile with a capital A. It might not be, because we want to be agile, because we want to accomplish what our mission and connect with the customers and do that very, very quickly, and all of that good stuff. So I don't have a specific answer to your question about which courses, but the fact that there are so many, when you look at the menu of accredited courses that people are offering out there, and the fact that 10 different courses accredited against the same learning objectives can look and feel different and be taught with different teaching styles, to me is one of the differentiators.
Yeah, I think that's a big strength.
So the fact that hiring managers are focusing on how people learn as a recommendation stands out to me as a good nugget out of this conversation. So thank you. If anybody who's on the call has thoughts about Bill's question, feel free to drop it in the chat box too, and we can return to that at the end. But the next thing we wanted to cover was how people who are Agile coaches or consultants, practitioners of various kinds, if they're cultivating government clients, what do you think they need to know or think about or respect in terms of the context in that specific sector?
Mm-hmm.
And back to the panelists.
Is it my turn to go first again?
Go.
So I think one of the first things to realize as an Agile practitioner cultivating government clients is there's a broad range of knowledge, experience, misinformation, actual information, etc., within the government sector. And to go in with I'd even say an open mindset of, hey, I'm going to go in, and if I came into USCIS with the same kind of pitch that I went into TSA or FAA with, I would either totally overwhelm one of them or I'd totally underwhelm USCIS. And I think that it is, just as you would with any client, it's important to understand your clients. And broadly as a sector, when you look at, I say sector government, but when you look at different departments, Department of Homeland Security has several pockets that are moving along the Agile path fairly well, and Homeland Security as a whole is trying to push Agile in the Agile direction. Department of Defense has a bunch of pockets, but it has some definitive bureaucracy as well. And then you have other areas that there might be a program that's hiding somewhere that's doing it, but as a whole, that department is not even really thinking about Agile yet. So making sure that you're going in with an open mindset in terms of who you're going to talk to and how you're going to deal with it. And I would say for most of the programs that don't have stuff going, go in small. Find something small that you can execute to prove the value, because as an Agile practitioner, if I'm looking for a government client, I don't want to go in and say, I can make you Agile, although, you know, it may sell in a few places, but I'd much prefer, you know, going in and saying, hey, I can deliver this program or I can help this program to actually get to a spot that it can deliver, or, you know, we can actually provide you value, and here's how. I think that's a lot better framing and position. I'd also say, and I'll say this from my perspective at CIS at the moment, is having some of the executive leadership and buy-in into what's going on is very helpful. Having Mark here as the CIO definitely helped push Agile at USCIS. If we had another CIO, it probably would not have gotten the same push. Having, and actually Bob DiLeonardo at the Domestic Nuclear Detection Office, where I worked for a while, definitely was open-minded enough to say, yes, let's do it, and I'm totally supportive. So those are good things to have, those C-level people saying, yes, we want to push this direction. When I worked on a program that had been mandated to go Agile by OMB, which, yes, we went Agile, but there wasn't really the heart and the buy-in to actually make the changes. It was, yeah, we're going to go Agile and we'll actually co-locate for a little while, but as soon as it starts to become a little bit burdensome, we're going to just let the dev team do what they want to do, and we'll check in on them once every 2 weeks, which is more often than they used to be checking in on them, but it's not the daily interactions that you want to get. So I think, you know, making sure that you're coming in with the right information for the different sectors in government, because they are by no means the same. And then also, you know, trying to build that C-level buy-in, particularly in a federal agency, which has a very command and control structure built into it, can definitely help the success.
So
I'll stop there.
this is, sorry?
I said I'll stop there. So.
Okay. This is David. Yeah, the great overview of the different different parts of the federal government. And I would reiterate that yeah, that every agency, component, departments, you know, group within the federal government can be quite different in terms of how far they are in terms of Agile maturity or, you know, their Agile mindset. The other thing from someone, if you know, if we're talking about people coming from the commercial world, the federal sector is different, and this is really important from an Agile standpoint to understand, and that the buying cycle can be very long. In the commercial world, you may go talk to a prospect and expect to do business if all goes well in a very quick time frame. In the federal world, even if they're very excited about working with you and they believe you can bring a lot of value to the organization, they may have buying cycles that they're enforced on them that take a long time. So that's one thing to be comfortable with. The other thing that can be different, it's this way sometimes in large organizations, so it's not just unique to the federal government, but for a lot of companies it's not this way, is you're selling to someone like a program manager on the business side, I would say, who's the ultimate buyer, but you've also got to sell through a contracting office and almost sell it again to them that you can actually deliver. So that's something to be aware of, is that you don't just have the buyer and the program management office, you've also got the contracting office. And the other thing is, often you buy through certain vehicles in the federal government. They've simplified some acquisition stuff by using a particular type of contract vehicles. And so if you're new to the federal government, you are probably not a holder of those contract vehicles, and you will need to work through another vendor, which is called your prime vendor. And I would just say choose your prime very wisely. the more they can understand the value you bring as an Agile consultant or coach, or whatever your role is, company, the better off you be, and the more they partner with you and value your input, the more likely you are to succeed with that prime. That's some things that are unique to the federal space.
Sounds like good advice. Josh, you were going to add something?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, the procurement process is by no means an efficient process and could benefit from some value stream mapping and leaning. It absolutely is true. Finding a way either to get on a contract, to get on one of those vehicles, or finding a prime who is willing to work with you to execute. And because of small business and 8A and various other rules, there can be, even when you're getting with a contract, when you hire a small business, they have to have 51% of the work. So learning a little bit about the contracting structure that you're trying to get on is also helpful. That isn't to say if I really want you, I can't find a way to get you.
So this is kind of a bonus question, since a lot of you were at Agile DC, and that's been going on for a few years. And next year we're looking at having the big conference, the Agile Alliance 2015 conference in Washington, DC. Do you think that'll have any impact on Agile in the federal sector, either getting ready for it or the activity itself around that conference?
So personally, I think so. This is Josh. I think that there'll be a couple of things that will definitely help. One is the government track within Agile 2015 will definitively provide some draw for the federal workplace. It is easier as a federal employee to go to a conference that I don't have to spend travel money to.
Right.
And so the fact that I can actually get to this conference will, I think, make a difference as well. And I know that personally okay, so my network is only X big, but I've been spreading the word about the conference to the contacts who are starting to be interested in Agile, GAO, and they're publishing stuff on Agile scheduling as an appendix to their scheduling recommendations. Other things like that, I've been letting them know very deliberately that Agile 2015 will be here, and lots of them, lots more than I would have expected, said, "Oh yeah, no, we're absolutely going to try and get there." So I think that there's a big opportunity to do two things. One, to introduce some people who wouldn't necessarily get that kind of exposure to different pieces of Agile, and oh my goodness, you can do this, that's really cool. And also to get a little bit more contact and people within the federal government, because I think there are lots of pockets of people who are doing cool Agile things that simply don't know about each other. And so as we start to get those connected a little bit more, then we can be like, oh, well, if you know this and this, and I know this and this, then we can actually start to make bigger impact changes that are beyond just one agency or one department or whatever.
Yeah, so sharing stories, and we can start to do that among the member organizations of IC Agile that are working in that sector leading up to the event and while we're there.
Yes.
Great. Did you want to add anything to that point, David, about the conference? Or?
No, I think that's right. I think, it'd be great. An outcome of that would be that the word Agile is not synonymous with Scrum in the federal government anymore. That'd be nice if people, came out of that and realized, oh, there's other approaches, practices, and processes associated with Agile that aren't. So, that would be. I think Josh is right. The fact that people in the government could meet other people in the government who are who are practicing, succeeding, and then general knowledge about the whole Agile theme will benefit.
And an eye-opening opportunity. Awesome.